Welcome, everybody, to Out Comes the Sun podcast and radio show. We are on Dash and Spotify and YouTube and Apple, and oh my gosh, we're everywhere. But yeah, welcome. I am here with my amazing co-host, Melissa Yamaguchi, and I'm Mariel Hemingway. And, here you are, here we are. And what are we going to talk about today, Melissa?
I've got a really fun story to share with you. It's out of the LA Times. And here's the title: Learning and Moving into His Next 100 Years.
Ooh.
This centenarian is a World War II veteran and a Renaissance man who says, I still have a lot of swagger, but I'll tell you one thing: if you don't move it, you lose it. So he hikes up at Griffith Park.
Oh my God.
Every day. He's hiking. And here's the thing that's the coolest part about the whole story. His family moved to Pennsylvania in the 1930s, and he settled into Los Angeles after serving in World War II and earning a master's in art at USC. When school ended, Teddy's lifelong course in continuing education began. He showed the interviewer, Steve Lopez, he showed me the bank of screens and keyboards in his workshop where he's teaching himself to convert sounds, shapes, and colors into computer-driven art and animation at the age of 100.
Wow.
And he attributes this sharp mind of his to the fact that he continues to move and hike and keep himself active. He's 100 years old learning how to code.
See, that is, if you can search the internet, and the key to longevity is to start new things, do new things, be active, get the brain going, get the body moving. I love that he hikes every day in Griffith Park. That's a testament to that longevity really is linked to what you continue to do.
Yes.
But you have to push yourself to do those things. You can't just, they don't happen to you. You have to be determined, and you have to, it's kind of like what we talk about all the time on the show, is taking responsibility. Take responsibility for it, because it is within our purview to live a long life. Bobby and I have that course with One Commune.
Yes.
The long kind of longevity, age really is just a number, and it really is a number when you live a life of vitality and you never change that. Yes, right. You get more aches and pains, but that means all the more reason to figure out why you've got, is there a lack of minerals? Is there, what is it that's causing that, instead of just giving into, oh, well, I'm in my 60s, I'm in my 70s, I'm in my 80s. Of course I'm this way.
That's right.
Figure out what you can do better. Maybe you are a little bit more whatever, but maybe you can make yourself as healthy as possible, because this man is proving it. And
I mean, his
Bobby's belief is that he says he wants to be, doing cartwheels at 100 and, looking forward to the next 100 years.
And he says here, he said, life is a cycle. And I tell my friends all the time, you have to keep moving. I trust young people to change things. I don't have the prejudice of most adults. And he said, my plan is to meet my pals for the next 100 years. And I want a dedication that reads, Pete Teddy, harmonica man, avid Griffith Park hiker, artist, teacher, and World War II veteran.
Wow.
And then he hikes every day on his trails. I'm telling you, Teddy is the new Yeti, and I'm going to be following him.
Absolutely.
Coolest thing ever.
Amazing. I love that. But it's a testament to, somebody who said, I'm not buying, and probably doesn't look at whatever the norm is not, watching stories about how, in your 65, you retire. Like, obviously this guy, like, I ain't what?
Well, and he stopped. There's somewhere in the article where he says he stopped buying into the processes that he realized where people were just making money off of him, instead of really caring about his life. So he started thinking, that doesn't look like it's going to work for me, and it looks like it's just a money grab. Not his words, mine, but in essence. So I'm going to figure this out for myself.
Well, it is wonderful, because there are so many, it's like when you turn 50, all of a sudden AARP is contacting you. And the message is, it's not that they're saying you're old, but it's that oh, well, you've reached this place in your life. So get ready because it's a roller coaster downhill. It's all,
Yep.
and that creates belief system. We go into it wondering, and then we're there, and then you think, oh crap, this is real, right?
Yeah.
Or I slipped and fell and I broke my ankle. Oh, that's because I'm old. No, maybe you just slipped and broke your ankle,
You
and
need new shoes.
yeah, right. I mean, there's the way we look at things and reframing that the story we're telling ourselves, because I do believe longevity has to do with mindset. If we decide that we're going to be as vital and useful as we decide we're going to be, then that's within our purview.
That's exactly right.
Believe that. So that is awesome. I love this man. His name is Pete
Teti, T-E-T-I, Pete Teti.
Teti.
Pete Teti.
What kind of name is that? Where's he from? What's the heritage?
I don't know. His family came from Pennsylvania, but I'm not sure from where he originally hailed.
Okay.
I don't know what Teti is.
I don't know what Teti is either. Teti.
Teti is a Griffith Park climber and a harmonica man.
He is a World War II vet. So there you go. Or what was it, World War II or one?
World War II.
World War II. Yeah. Wow. Very, very cool. I bet to sit down with him and hear some of the stories of his life. Can you imagine what it must be like to come back like to be where we are today from where he came from
Exactly.
years ago?
Exactly.
That's insane. Yeah. I love that stuff. Anyway, gosh, we've come to the end of that. We have an amazing guest. Her name is Coach Dea, and she is the founder and host of an award-winning podcast called Love Most. She's a relationship coach, and she is a CCM artist, singer, songwriter, and published book contributor. She is also a woman's empowerment coach, marriage and family, she and divorced women's coach, which is very much needed, and a certified trauma healing facilitator. Yeah, she's fascinating. I think you're all going to really, really, really enjoy our conversation with her. Her name is Coach Dea, and she will be up next. As a mental health advocate and author, I love books. Books have the capacity to inspire, educate, transform, and ultimately help readers all over the world. So if you want to publish your book, or if you need help writing your story, I highly recommend Mindstir Media, rated the #1 best book publisher around the country. Mindstir Media can help you no matter where you are in the book writing or publishing process. Go to mindstirmedia.com to learn more and schedule a consultation. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Coach Dea. It's such a pleasure to have you on. You do extraordinary work, and we're very interested. You have a passion for really like discussing things that are, I don't know. I'd like you to tell us kind of really what you're passionate about in uncovering in your clients and probably in the world, kind of what they're afraid of, and kind of really going into that unknown, that thing that kind of scares us. But I think you believe, like both Melissa and I do, that when you go in there, there's so much to be found and so much recovery that comes out of going into the dark places, and yet they're not as dark as you worried about them to be.
Absolutely.
So describe what it is you're passionate about, and then how you guide your clients to kind of find that in themselves.
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to meet both of you, Mariel and Melissa. The one thing that I wanted to start with is that what you're referring to that I'm very passionate about is the work that I've been doing concerning being positioned to receive, right? Being positioned to receive even sounds like an emotional thing, but it is more about a mindset, right? So when we're thinking about in terms of, neuroscience says that we are able to create new brain pathways through thoughts, habits, and behavior, right? And I got very interested as I worked with my clients in the realm of relationship, of course. And I discovered that most people, because they're so afraid of the unknown, even if they are in pain, it's easier to stay in pain because it's familiar, right? And it
Yeah.
brought me to this point of, how do I encourage my clients to move into a place of put it to work? Okay, show up and do the work, do whatever it takes to go from here to there. I know I had to do in my journey of healing. It wasn't that I woke up one day and said, today I'm going to heal. I literally said, I was just like, I just need a different life. I don't know what that looks like, right? But I had something in me, and maybe because of my faith in God, and I know that everyone is different. It's not that it has to be one way or the other. But there was a little bit of in me that said, even though I know I'm not in the right place, I know I will be. That little bit was enough to make me want to seek higher, seek better for myself. And I had no idea what that looked like. Now, when I say to you, the position to be, position to receive is an inside job, as I call it, much like happiness, success, and peace. So is loneliness and failure. We can tell ourselves, what are we telling ourselves? What are we saying to ourselves about ourselves, right? And I knew that because earlier in life, I literally could stand in front of the mirror and tear myself apart all by myself. I didn't even need enemies, right? And so I thought the importance of language here. So there's three elements that I would say are important for you to get into that position, that mindset. One is language. The next one is emotional humility. And the third one is being in a position where you feel like a worthy recipient. Okay. And I'm going to break down those three aspects of it. But before I do it, I wanted to illustrate this conversation with a metaphor, which is a story that I created for myself when I was struggling to see what was on the other side of what I wanted. Right. A lot of people think that, you can plan, envision, you can even prepare yourself with all these external things, but inside, we may not have the tools to access the place that we need to do, because it isn't really about, I have to do this in order to have this, in order to become the person that I need to be. It should be the other way around. I am, I do, I have. Things that can be interdependent, or they can work together. And I think that that's where we get stuck a little bit. So before I go into breaking down those three elements that I think are vital to this place, which is this notion of being positioned to receive, which is more of a mindset than anything else. And obviously everyone gets there for one reason or another, whether they are going through a difficult time in their lives, or there was severe trauma in childhood, or they're dealing with a life change, whether it be moving, or they've experienced some type of trauma, like a loss of a home or a family member. I think everyone gets there for different reasons, but the pathway seems to be the same. And then we'll go into it later. But here's the story that I wanted to share. So imagine that you are standing in complete darkness in a forest somewhere. You don't even know where you are, okay? But you know that there is a body of water in front of you, and you need to cross to the other side. On the other side, you know that there are some of the things that you want and some of the things that you need, but you don't have a boat. You don't know how you're going to get to the other side, right? However, you do know that just below the surface of the water, there are heart-shaped rocks. Okay, there's a reason why they're heart-shaped. And you know that you can get to the other side by stepping on them. The only problem is you can't see them. You don't know where they are. You have no idea. So you're stuck. You sit there in complete darkness and you go, I'm afraid, I'm anxious. I don't know how I'm going to get there. You talk yourself out of it completely. But then there comes a moment when you know that if you stay in that place, you're really not going to move. And you start to look around, right? You start to look around, move around, see if you can find a stick, a piece of wood. And then you realize, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to say, I can do this. Those words, I can do this, starts to move something in here. Now you say you stand in front of the body of water. What would happen if I took a step forward? And guess what happens? You pick your foot up, and that first rock right in front of you lights up. Now you know where you have to step. The next thing you do is, oh, I did something, and Now I know where I have to go. You pick your foot up again, and another rock would light up, and so on and so forth. You finally get to the other side in complete darkness, but when you get there, it's lit, and you get to see all the things that you want and all the things that you need that you didn't even know you needed. Okay, that is the process of being positioned to receive. It involves a lot of, it could involve a lot of the things that we want and envision, because there is power in manifestation, there is power in prayer, depending on where people are coming from with their own personal beliefs. But there is power in standing in the unknown, because we don't know what it is exactly that we need. A lot of people don't even know where their identity comes from. Many people are struggling because, now think of the past few years, right? During the pandemic, where people's identity was in their work. Well, they couldn't work for 2 years. What happened? They felt lost. A lot of people fell off of a place that they thought they
Yeah,
were, right?
absolutely.
So I know I
Absolutely.
said a lot, so I'm going to pause and let you ask me a couple of
No,
questions.
no, no. What's beautiful about that is that, like it really is. I mean, I think that when you, I mean, for Melissa and I'm going to speak for you, Melissa, a little bit. Just because I can, because you're my best friend. We believe that we have different words for it. I think that that's because we're big believers that it's first of all taking responsibility. I mean, you have to do that. You have to go, okay, this is my journey, my thing, whatever. I can't look to somebody else to do it or rely on something behind me, but it is kind of walking into the unknown, and you never know what the unknown will feel like until you take that first step. And it's beautiful. I love the story because it's beautiful that you step and then all of a sudden that heart-shaped rock is lit up, and then the path, and you don't know it, but that's where courage comes in, because really to find your recovery or yourself or your inner whatever, the not the inner critic but the inner lover inside of you, it really takes courage to get past what you think might be hurtful, and it usually isn't. And even our memories that we sometimes have to tell our story to, they really, like I said in a book that I wrote, our memories don't have guns. They they just don't. And once you kind of address them, you realize how not powerful they are, right? And that's kind of what you're saying. It's like we have to have faith or courage or whatever it is to step into that dark unknown place and then realize it's not that bad. And you're guided. So it's a beautiful story. I loved it.
I want to share something. I want to mention something that stuck out for me. When you began saying, I can, I do, the I and then the verb, I immediately thought of a 2-year-old, because children, when they're 2 and they're starting to learn a little bit of their own autonomy, and when you try to tie their shoe, they say, I do myself. No, no. And they push you away, not really knowing how to tie their shoe. They've kind of seen you do it, but that's where they get their courage to learn how to move forward in lives with just that very simplistic, I do, I can. So the minute you said that, I thought, well, yeah, little children have that same genius without knowing obviously what it is. But I like the connection. That's great.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love both of the things that you guys said, and love the fact that you brought up the word courage. Because here's something that I hear a lot as a coach is, I'm afraid. And I say, let's reframe it. You are afraid, but guess what? There's no courage without fear. So you're courageous. See, if we start to change the language in which we speak, right? It's about
Like
unlearning
that.
some things,
Yeah.
learning new things, right? You get to keep some of the things. Obviously, we're not going to have to unlearn everything. But so the elements that I spoke about, one is language. Learn some things to learn new things. What are you saying about yourself, not to the world, not to the neighbors, not to your boss, not to society, to yourself? Second thing is emotional humility. Emotional humility obviously is not a feeling, but is the means by which you allow yourself to be human, to be vulnerable, to be imperfect, and to be teachable, if there is such a word, right? To be in a place of receiving, learning. Otherwise, what's the point if there is no lesson? Most of the lessons, I think, will come from the hard places, right? And the third thing will be what I call, are you feeling like a worthy recipient? If
Mhm.
you don't understand the value of deserving from a place of value, not the place of longing for something or place of void. When you have put in the work, like I said, you pick up that foot, that means you took an action. You did something in spite of your fears. You were brave enough to say, I can, with abandonment, not even knowing what it would mean, right? So if you are in that place, there's two different people, two different kinds of people. They will either feel entitled when they say, I deserve to have that. I deserve to have a man like that, or I deserve to have that job. But have you done the work? Are you showing up in such a way that aligns with that reality, right? Whether it be in relationship or anywhere else. And then there's a place of deserving that is from knowing. I think that when we are required to change our mindset to move forward, whether it be from an emotional event or a tragedy, right, or trauma, especially trauma, we're looking at what happened to us, what they've done to us, but rarely we looked at what happened in us. And if we look at what happened in us, we're going to go to that place of responsibility. Like you said, you are responsible for your healing. You need to do whatever it takes. Would I choose to live my life in contempt for the rest of my life, knowing that I may end up sick from it? I may end up not living the life that I came to live. I may end up not forgiving myself for not knowing better, right? At the end of the day, when we come to the point in life where we say, what was my role in my pain? This was a very important moment in my life when I had to ask myself that question, and I did not like how it made me feel at first. What was my role in my pain? And it was only because I thought I was to blame for it.
Mhm.
And it
Right.
doesn't have anything to do with blame. It just has to do with, okay, something happened in your life. With that, something happened in you. And because of it, you took part in it in a certain
Yes.
way. Now,
Yes.
whether you were complacent or whether you were a hope junkie like I used to be, you know, we all choose, even if it's subconsciously, we get to choose how to take part. Now, knowing that, right, if you have a role in your pain, and that may come from the subconscious, doesn't it make sense that a role in your peace would be intentional?
Yeah, absolutely.
You
And
can go
also,
from,
and
go
I
ahead.
think what you're saying is it really starts with that languaging, because the inner voice, and you said this when you were first speaking about how you and I had a major critical inner voice that if you invited her over for dinner, you'd like kick her out because she was so nasty and unpleasant and, said such horrible things, like the worst house guest ever, but she lived in my head. And I think it's even the inner language, trying to become aware of how you're speaking to yourself, because we can spout a lot of things verbally and look like we've got it all together. But if the inner voice is still saying negative things to you, there's a lot of hurdles that you may not get over. But having awareness of that inner critic, that voice that just tells you your whatever nasty things about yourself, that comes from you, and then from that's where that place of undeserving comes from. But then if you can relanguage that, like you said, and I think really embrace your emotional humility, which I think that's a beautiful context from which to learn that healing is a lifelong process. I always say that my first book was called Finding My Balance, but it's like every day is, you have to find your balance. You have to find, every day is a journey, but it's a beautiful journey if you're willing to just stay present with it, and be a little scared sometimes and jump into the places that make you a little bit uncomfortable, because the other side is never as bad as you've imagined it to be. But that relanguaging of the inner voice, I think, is one of the most critical and beautiful things. And you say it so well that you enable it to become true. Because I think what's very hard for people that struggle with an inner voice of negativity and darkness is the feeling, and I used to have this, I don't have it anymore, which is awesome, but is that feeling that will never go away. Like, how can I ever stop this? This happens all the time. I used to have an eating disorder and it was constant. But the verbal abuse, the inner verbal abuse was so, it was just, it was all the time. If I wasn't sleeping, I was criticizing myself inside my head. So it really is about embrace that. It's okay. And that's part of one of the dark places you have to step into, is like, really, this is not who you are. But we have a cat in the background.
Coach Dea, I have a question for you. A lot of times, some of the conversations that we have, this internal conversation, is language that we have heard in a familial setting or a familiar setting. And so we sometimes are not aware of it, right? So we've had guests on the show before that weren't able to identify that was an internal voice that was saying all the negative things. They identified it as that's what their mother had always said, that's what their dad had always said, or a coach or whatever. And not a Coach Dea, but another coach. And so they would have these thoughts, and then they wouldn't know how to identify them. So understanding that that's an internal struggle is the first capture, I'm sure, towards the step. What can you share with our audience, a really strong, basic starting point, if they're confused about, they've heard that voice their whole lives and they don't know how to identify that it's coming from within? I know that sounds remote, but I know you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, the thing about any type of, you heard me say before, an inside job, right? When you come
Yeah.
to the concept of ourselves, what do we say to yourselves about ourselves? I mean, to ourselves about ourselves is the tricky part is you have to be able to identify that you're doing it yourself. Okay.
Right.
If you can't, at the very least,
Yep.
if you can't identify it, which a lot of people can't, at the very least, you have to desire to get out of it. I think all of us have a breaking point, okay? Any type of healing work starts with desire. It starts within us. And it's like I said, it doesn't look like, oh, today I'm going to wake up and heal, okay? It could be something as desperate of, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this anymore.
Yes.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. That is a little bit of a door that opens. From there on, it's up to the person to seek guidance, to seek, whether it's not everybody is ready for coaching or can afford coaching. It could be reading a book or finding a video. That's how I started. My journey began that way. When I said, I just need a different life, I had no idea what that looked like. But this thing about language that's crucial is that and you said it, Mariel, it takes time. This is a process. So for me, for example, it was as simple as I put a sticker on my mirror, because that's where I tore myself up the hardest, that says, I am love. And I read that sticker every day and before I looked at myself in the mirror. Okay. And then eventually I started smiling, but it didn't happen right away. And then eventually I said, I'm beautiful. I started accepting things for what they were. The difficulty that I think people have is that for some reason or another, what we've been told, what the world says about us, what other people say about us, what we feel we need to be is perfect. And we can't. And it's about saying, I am imperfect and I'm okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're not meant to be perfect, by the way. And I know that even from being a Christian, we hear we are perfectly created in his image. Well, he is perfect. We're not. If we're meant to be perfect, we wouldn't be here to learn. If we were so perfect, we wouldn't even seek God. So think about that for a moment, right? We're supposed to be imperfect. There is a reason why. Looking from that perspective, looking at ourselves from the perspective is we don't have to be perfect. How many people you hear say, oh, I really want to do this resolution at the beginning of the year and I'm going to go into the gym and lose 30 pounds, but I'm fat and I'm ugly. You're never going to lose the 30 pounds because you don't love yourself. You would love yourself if you didn't need to go to I have to lose weight first in order to go to the gym. I used to do that. Now go to the gym in order to lose the weight and be healthy and be whole and be strong and be toned. It doesn't even matter if you feel fat. It doesn't matter. So to answer your question is, unfortunately, because it is such a mind thing,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be willing. Okay, it begins with desire. Even if it doesn't look like desire in the way we say it, we have to reach that edge that says, I just can't be here anymore. Something's got to give. Then you can begin the process. Because, I mean, think of drug addicts, right?
Right.
How are they going to ever recover if they themselves don't get to the point, but they say, I can no longer do this. I can no longer do this. It has to change, or life will humble them, right? They may kill somebody because they're inebriated. And that point may be a breaking point. So either something has to happen, or we have to find within ourselves the desire to change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. No, it's really good. I love. Can you do a little breakdown of what you might tell a client? Like, because we like to give our audience like things to do. You know what I mean? Like, because it's wonderful to think of concepts, but if you don't know how to act on them, then what do? You know, right? What would you, if I was coming to you as a client and I had gotten to that point where I said, I can't do this anymore. I beat myself up all the time. And this morning I woke up and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't do that anymore, right? I can't do this thing that I've been doing for years and years. It's too painful and I've reached my limit. Help me to take the next step.
Okay. So the first thing that I actually do is, when I get to know my clients initially, I do a discovery call in which I lay on the table all of their foundational core values. I believe that a part of who we are is from what, like Melissa mentioned, what our family members told us before, as our grandparents, or maybe a teacher, a mentor. We
Right.
create these concepts, these points of references that kind of guide us to where we need to go. Our foundational core values, it's like a compass, right? You're going to act a certain way based on what you're taught or based on what your grandparents said or the way your parents behaved. So I kind of have an understanding of where that person is coming from. The other
Right.
part of it is to identify if there is trauma or not. Most likely there is, right? Everybody has trauma, baggage, and all of those things, but understanding the nature of that trauma. Because even as a relationship coach, what I'm noticing is that people are either looking for partners or choosing their partners from a subconscious place of where the trauma began.
I'm
It's
sure.
not even about what
Wow.
happened to them, but the point of origin. What was the point of origin? For example, if it's a trauma related to the father, right? Then people become they have the inability of being emotionally um, of having emotional intimacy, particularly with themselves. Okay,
Yes.
it's very common, and most people would say, "Oh, it's because of the mother." No, it's not. It comes from having a relationship with the father, or not having a relationship with the father, either because of death or because of uh, a
Illness.
divorce, or
Yes.
because of abuse, right? And people, men and women, both become inept in emotional intimacy. And it's not uncommon to see, even in my own history of relationships with people in general, before I even became a coach, I noticed that as an element. Why? Because the father is the port, the security, the protection, right? And so the provider, right? So there are all those elements. But so when I get to the point where I understand what my clients are, I start to work with them in terms of language. The first thing I say is give them a list of things they need to repeat every day. And I always give them these tiny little things to do, because I believe that with tiny habits, we do big things, starting with the small things. You can't overwhelm a person and say, go to the gym every day and work out for 3 hours. They're not going to be able to do this. It's too much, right? But if you say, hey, every day before you even go to the gym, start doing 10 push-ups today. Tomorrow you do 10 biceps. You keep adding to it, and that keeps growing. So what I tell my clients is I wanted to start saying to this every day before you wake up. I mean, after you wake up and before you go to bed, I deserve all good things. And say it every day, twice a day, or whenever you feel like you don't, say it. I deserve all good things. The next phase is all is well. I tell them to take 3 deep breaths and say all is well. Throughout their day, if there is a moment of struggle where they find themselves stuck in a problem or something at work, take 3 deep breaths and say all is well. Understanding that, a lot of times when we are dealing with the external, which we have no control, by the way, even though people like to believe that we do, we don't. Um, a lot of times that's happening on the external becomes a reflection to ourselves of ourselves, right? And this is dangerous, because take rejection, for instance. If rejection is a mere perception of what happened, and now you're saying to yourself, based on your trauma, that you're not good enough, that they rejected you, that you need to change, that something was wrong, that perception is now a weapon. But take rejection as a sense of redirection and release. Now you're in a new place. Guess what? That didn't work out. There must be something better for me. Faith is helpful, I think, when it comes to these things. And I think that other people have other ways that they get there. A lot of people believe in manifestation, and it's beautiful, right? To believe in something outside of you, whether it's faith or call it God or the universe. I think that everybody gets there when they really want to. But the beauty of it is thinking of rejection as a redirection, and most importantly, a release, which means you created new space for something new that might be better aligned with you, is gold. You know, it would be so much better off if we didn't sit there and beat ourselves up to the ground. So I had a client, for instance, that said to me, I can't take this anymore. Those exact words. I'm sick and tired of it. People are using me. And I said, wait, hold on, let's reframe that. I'm always teaching them to reframe. Let's switch the words. How about this? Say it out loud. I don't have to do this anymore. And she said it. She says, I don't have to do this anymore. And she went, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. I said, no, you don't have to. You don't have to allow people to, but people are taking advantage. No,
Right.
you're letting people take advantage
Yep.
of you. Stop it.
Well, it's also
have to.
it's also you give it somebody outside saying you have permission to love yourself. You have guess what? You can love yourself. You can be healthy. You can be whatever you want to be, right? And just
Exactly.
and then turning that into I can say that for myself. That's beautiful. And that's powerful. Those are powerful little tools to take into your life. Because and even that programming is I am deserving. I don't know what you said. You said two great things, which I'm sure Melissa wrote down because she's good that way.
Well, I know what I'm going to, next time there's a big holiday meal and everyone's looking at me to making everything, I'm going to use I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. I'm not making this meal and slaving away in the kitchen anymore.
That's right.
I think one of the most important that you said a multitude of things that have been really grabbers. But Coach Dea, one of the things that what an intrinsic message that I've seen you weave throughout our time together is giving people the power back themselves. We give our power away all day and night, whether it's to marketing or whether it's to what society says we must be, whatever we think is going on, whether it's internal or external. Sometimes a lot of it's external, and we give our power away. And I love that Mariel and I talk about this in different formats, the different work that she and I do. She and I both do public speaking, and we both have a different approach to really taking ownership of your life. And this is what you're sharing. And I mean, we're going to ring the bell because I know that our audience who gravitates towards the messages of our guest and Mariel and me believe that this is the most important thing. Take power back in your life instead of giving it away. You are made in a perfectly imperfect mold, and there's a reason you're here. And so when we give it away, we're just going through the motions and taking up oxygen. So get active in your own life. I love it.
And the other great thing that you've given us is that with all those things that you just said, Melissa, you've created a space to receive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what ultimately it's like, quit blocking the things that keep coming towards you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there are many things that are gifts, and sometimes we don't see them and we ignore them, we push them away and we run away and all that stuff. And yet we're really here to receive. And that's
Absolutely.
how and that's true healing when you have that ability to receive. Coach Dea, you are a wonderful, wonderful guest, but also just a wonderful human being. And I can tell you must make a tremendous difference in your clients' lives because you come from such a heartfelt place where we are so thrilled that you would come, and maybe you'll come back and talk to us more,
Absolutely. I wanted to add something to what you both said, because I love that you talk about power, personal power, and also when you spoke about receiving. You see, receiving is also a gift, giving a gift to someone else, okay? Because this is something that I was taught by my dad. He used to say, a friend, a best friend, the best kind of friend is the one that lets you be there for them, right? And I speak about this with my kids all the time. I say to my children, listen, I know that you feel that you're bothering someone, but when you're ready to receive something that you're not sure what
Yeah.
it is, let the world or the person or the circumstance, the event, the opportunity, receive it. Because when you receive, you're also giving. Behind that event, behind that job, behind that conversation, there was someone who made an effort to do that for you or to help you. And even if it's something that doesn't depend on others, right? Think of that what you're receiving, you're also giving. The better you become, the better able you are to be for others, to be a contribution in some way, to have an understanding. Why do I love being a coach? Is because when I was in pain, right? Everything up until now, everything that happened, I like to say my stops were my steps. The most important steps that I took in the dark, one that rock lit up for me, came out of a dark place. So for me, it was about, I actually didn't even know I was going to become a coach. I started studying. I said, I have to know what, I took a course in marriage and family. I'm divorced. I'm twice divorced, right? So I was very young when I got married, and I had two beautiful children who are now 36 and 34. Then I was a single mom for 10 years and remarried for 20 years and had three more children that are now 15, 17, and 22. Okay, I'm also a grandmother, proud to say. But when I looked back into my life and I thought, what's my role in my pain? What did I do or didn't do? I went into this quest. I have to find out. Maybe I should read or study. So I took a course in marriage and family and divorced women's counseling. And after it was just for me to know, I wanted to learn. I wanted to know if I'm going to heal, I want to know how I'm going to do this. I'm a need to know kind of person. I know not everyone is that way. But at the end of that journey, I got my diploma and I thought, maybe other people need it. Maybe my pain is the key to someone else's prison door. How many women are sitting there not knowing where to go? So for people that are listening right now, for instance, I wanted to emphasize it's not about perfection. It's about managing the imperfections, knowing where you stand in such place that you do. If it keeps coming up, that means that you got to be paying attention to the things that are popping up that are not yet resonating with who you think you're meant to be here. A lot of people say, well, Coach Dea, I don't even know my purpose. I don't know my identity. How do I do this without knowing that? Guess what? You don't get to know everything and control everything. Just position yourself to receive from that unknown, that emotional humility that allows you to say, yes, I'm imperfect. Yes, I don't have all the answers. I may not have all the answers right now, but I can still do this. I can try. I can put that foot, cut my foot so that the place that I need to go will light up. I do feel that I have an advantage from just a place of faith, because I think when you believe in something other than yourself, whether it's God or Buddha or the universe, or whether you look at crystals or cards, you tend to let it unfold, right? It's to be able to flow, right? It's to be able to flow with ease. And so I love what you said about power, because and then when we think about power, a lot of people will associate that with control, but it's not. It's the power that you have for yourself.
Yep.
The way that you can choose to control how you either react or respond to a situation, or how you participate. Are you willing to change your mindset in a way that, well, think about all the things that you've done? Like, for example, when I think of all the accolades, I tell my kids, I don't think about them too much, because I think that they were a byproduct of effort. So it doesn't feel like a prize to me. Didn't I make the effort? Don't you study to get the A's, right? Does it feel like an accolade to me? I mean, yes, it's nice to have the label, the prize, the presidential award, and the award from Huggies. All of the things that I've done in my life, they came from effort and work. So why wouldn't the hard things require the same type of effort? And if people were to say, I know I can do this, but I know it's going to take an investment of time, and it's going to take time to heal. It's a process. Nobody cares about your triumph. They care about how you got there. It's not about the story of the triumph. It's about the story of the journey and the steps that you needed to take to get there. It doesn't matter how it is. It only matters that you showed up and did it, that you put it to
Absolutely.
work. It
Absolutely.
really, and everyone is different,
I
right?
gotta stop you because we only have a half an hour. I apologize, but you're fascinating. This is great stuff, and it's great things that our audience can really take away. Yeah. So thank you so much, Coach Dea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
so beautiful. Thank you. Well, that was wonderful. What a wealth of information she is. And you know what I love is that all these I get excited and I have to calm myself down, because I'm like, oh yeah, we believe that. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just shut up. I need to shut up, Mariel, and just listen. But but I do get excited because it doesn't matter where you come from. You can kind of come to this thing so many different ways. And that's
Sure.
what's beautiful about these people that are helping other people overcome traumas, be able to step into their power,
Mhm.
take who they are, you know, not be afraid of the unknown, whatever it is. And you need different language from all kinds of different people because everybody's different. And so that's why, you know, it kind of reminds me of the of our foundation, the Mariel Hemingway Foundation, being it's that resource navigator. It's like,
Yeah.
look, you may be looking for this on this side, or maybe it's something over here, maybe it's holistic, maybe it's not, maybe you need a absolute psychiatrist, doctor, you know, whatever
Right.
it is. Everybody has a different language and a different path to their recovery.
Yep.
So I really respect I really respect that. I think she's got a lot of, you know, she's been through a lot. She was telling us when weren't on the air, she was telling us about almost dying of COVID, which was pretty horrendous.
Eye-opening, and she said it completely transformed and changed her. And what you listening to what you just said made me think. I was at a dinner party recently, and I was seated next to a lady who started a rehab,
Mm-hmm.
very small, like 6 to 8 bed boutique rehab, really small, where she can offer very concentrated one-on-one help. And I asked her what she felt. I asked her what her um, how long she had been in business and how she felt her success rates were. And she was telling me that she has really high success rates. And I said, to what do you attribute that? And she takes them to church. And I thought, interesting. Now, obviously, that's not going to work everywhere
Right.
because some people may want to go to a temple, some people may not want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So she was saying that she takes them to church. And I said, do people find you through the church? And she said, not always. Sometimes, you know, I'm at the shelters offering help, and I just offer them this opportunity. So to your point of what you were saying earlier, yeah, wherever you can find help, wherever you can find your path to betterment that sings to you, that vibrates at a level that you think, okay, click, I get this. You're talking my language. I can hear you. Go there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why there are a million different people out there coaching. There are millions of different methodologies that are
Yep.
actually very effective. That's why we're not one size fits all
Nope.
human. We're such a plethora of different things, and genealogy and heritage and friendships and relationships and traumas and divorces, and
Yeah,
you know, and it all makes for your unique individual whatever that has to have its own language.
it's
And,
true.
so you know, the journey of self-awareness really comes about looking at yourself and finding the help that you need that speaks your language. Yeah, which is really what you just said. Hello. I think you
I
just
don't
said.
even trust one size fits all shirts. I
I
don't trust them.
well, no.
It's OS, and I'm like, yeah, that's a
So
lie.
it's also a lie. It is totally a lie
It
because
is.
I put them on and they've been tight. I'm just saying. And what does that mean? One size for what?
One size fits one arm, one size
Yeah,
fits one.
and yeah, and one size in a hat. I'm sorry, Bobby has the size of a watermelon.
He's got a big head to hold a
It
big
ain't
brain.
gonna work.
It's true. One
It's so
size.
true.
You've
One
had a
size.
lot going on. You had a lot going on around you.
Oh my gosh, I've been traveling. I moved into this house. You know, we've got a lot going on. You know, Bobby and I, Bobby especially has, you know, opened the doors of our business, Stratosphere ATC, which we'll probably do a whole show about
We
that.
need to.
It's pretty extraordinary. It's a machine that pressurizes you at different altitudes, but the whole host of amazing things that it does to you
Yep.
physically and mentally. It's pretty extraordinary. I'm traveling tomorrow. I'm going to Florida for a speaking engagement for NAMI.
Florida.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And I'm excited because I've got some new material that we worked on today. So it's exciting. You know, things are shifting and moving into this really very interesting, very like hold on to your hats, and it's the holidays. So, you know, like put your seatbelt on.
Well, and the good thing, I want to give you a pat on the back, because the one thing that no matter how many swirling dervishes are around you, with you moved into a new home, and there it's been full almost every single weekend of people coming, and lovely relationships and people coming and spending time. But there's a lot of energy moving around you, and I want to give you a pat on the back because you still continue to do your exercising, do your sleep routines, do your skincare routines, your water routines, every single routine that keeps you grounded and centered and focused. And it's so vital.
Oh,
It's
it's so
vital.
vital. And it's the one time that you really, it's very tempting to go, oh, I just don't have time. But
Right.
you go and you have to make the time because, I mean, it's critical. And even Bobby's like, I don't have, I'm like, babe, you have to make the time.
Take the time.
And he does. He's starting to. I'm like, you just have to. And moving up to this house really helped us because it's kind of a destination. So it's not like,
Yeah.
you know, you have to like decide you're going to go down the hill or whatever you're going to do. So, and I'm a big believer that when things are so critical, it's when you make the time for those, you know, for that self-care.
Exactly
And
right.
go on and on about that. We probably will at some point, but we have reached the end of our show today.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
Got for you today.
We're talked out.
We're talked out. Thank
My
you so
vocal
much.
cords are going on strike.
Thank you for listening to Out Comes the Sun with Melissa Yamaguchi, my co-host, and myself, Mariel Hemingway. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.